The trouble began innocently enough, as it often does with neighborhood disputes. Living in a well-kept community governed by a homeowners association, HOA, had its perks: landscaped common areas, organized events, and a semblance of order that many homeowners appreciated. Initially, I found the HOA's involvement a comforting presence, ensuring property values remained stable and aesthetics were upheld. However, that comfort soon transformed into frustration as the HOA's authority began to encroach upon my personal domain. At first, it was minor issues: notices about unapproved paint colors or reminders about lawn maintenance. These warnings felt trivial, and I complied without much thought. Yet, as months turned into years, the association's regulations became increasingly intrusive. I often felt like I was living under a microscope, with every decision scrutinized by self-appointed guardians of community standards. The tipping point came one fateful afternoon when I discovered that members of the HOA had trespassed onto my property. They entered my yard without my consent to inspect what they deemed noncompliance with their rules, carrying measuring tapes and clipboards as if they were conducting an official audit. My heart sank as I realized that what they considered necessary oversight was, in fact, an invasion of my privacy and rights as a property owner. This blatant disregard for boundaries ignited a fire within me. Anger surged as I recognized the potential legal ramifications of their actions. Armed with information about property laws and rights, I began to explore my options for holding the HOA accountable. The thought of pursuing a lawsuit loomed large in my mind, and not just any lawsuit but one that could lead to significant financial restitution for their trespass. What started as a conflict over neighborhood rules had spiraled into something far more serious: a battle for justice against an organization that once held power over me. As I prepared to confront them about their actions, I realized this was not just about reclaiming my property. It was about standing up for my rights and protecting myself from further violations. The stakes were high, and the road ahead promised to be challenging, but I felt empowered, ready to take on the fight. The incident unfolded on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, one I would never forget. After returning home from work, I noticed an unusual commotion in my yard. From the window, I caught sight of several HOA members going over my carefully landscaped garden with measuring tapes in hand, as if performing some kind of inspection. My heart raced as I stepped outside, barely able to believe what I was witnessing. They were discussing compliance issues among themselves, completely unaware of my presence. As I approached them, their demeanor shifted. They exchanged nervous glances and attempted to shrug off their invasive behavior. "We're just checking if you followed the guidelines," one member tried to explain. The gall of it struck me hard. This wasn't a friendly reminder or a casual conversation. It was a blatant violation of my privacy. They had entered my property without permission, treating it as an extension of their jurisdiction. I could feel anger boiling within me. This was no longer just about aesthetics or neighborhood compliance. It was a matter of respect and boundaries being violated. It became clear that their perception of authority had gone too far. I demanded they leave immediately, but the confrontation only escalated when they insisted that they were entitled to evaluate any properties that might breach HOA regulations. After they left, quite hurriedly, I stood in my yard, grappling with the reality that my space had been invaded. In those moments alone, questions flooded my mind. How could they think this was acceptable? What recourse did I have against such an audacious act? Fueled by indignation, I began gathering evidence to support my claims. This included documenting the aftermath, the spots where they trampled through flowers and the scattered tools they left behind during their hasty retreat. It became abundantly clear that this trespass could not go unnoticed or unchallenged. As days passed, I collected pictures and recorded every detail to prepare for a confrontation that loomed larger than imagined. The HOA's actions crossed a line into legal territory, solidifying my intent to seek accountability for this intrusion. A determination now rooted in both personal affront and the quest for justice against an organization that misused its power over homeowners like myself. In the days following the trespassing incident, I channeled my outrage into a focused effort to gather evidence. It was crucial to document everything meticulously, as I knew that a strong case relied on solid proof of the HOA's invasion. I started by taking photographs of my yard, paying close attention to the areas where they had trampled flowers and disturbed the carefully arranged landscape. Each picture captured not just the physical damage but also served as a visual reminder of their audacity. As I walked around my property, I noted specific details that would further substantiate my claims. I measured the distance from the boundary line to where they had entered, ensuring I could demonstrate how far into my personal space they had gone. Every blade of grass crushed under their feet felt like a violation not just of property but of trust. A trust that I believed existed between neighbors. I also reached out to a few nearby residents who had witnessed the HOA members in action. Their accounts provided additional context and corroboration of my story. These neighbors, once hesitant to get involved, began to see the implications of what had transpired. Not just for me but for anyone living under the HOA's watchful eye. We shared our experiences over coffee, and it became clear that my situation resonated with others who felt similarly oppressed by the association's heavy-handed tactics. To further strengthen my position, I researched local laws regarding trespassing and homeowners' rights. Armed with this knowledge, I compiled a list of legal precedents that could support my case should it escalate to a lawsuit. The more I learned, the more empowered I felt. It was no longer just about defending my own yard, but about standing up for all homeowners who might be vulnerable to similar overreach. By the end of the week, I had created a comprehensive file filled with photographs, witness statements, and legal references. This compilation became my armor as I prepared to confront the HOA, my determination fueled by both indignation and an unwavering desire for justice. It was clear that their actions could not be swept under the rug. They needed to understand there were consequences for their blatant disregard of boundaries. With my evidence compiled and my determination solidified, the next crucial step was to fully understand my legal rights and options. I quickly realized that navigating the complexities of property law required more than just personal conviction. I needed a strong grasp of the legal landscape surrounding HOAs and trespassing. Unsure where to begin, I scoured online resources, consulted local legal forums, and read up on case studies involving similar disputes. One important directive emerged. As a homeowner, I had inherent rights to use and enjoy my property without unwarranted interference. This meant that the HOA's actions not only violated good neighborly conduct but also breached established property laws. I learned that unauthorized entry onto private property is classified as trespassing, which can lead to both civil and criminal repercussions for the offenders. Additionally, I discovered that many states have specific laws protecting homeowners from HOA overreach. These regulations often include protocols that HOAs must follow before conducting inspections or enforcing rules. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I felt more empowered to confront the association about their behavior. To gain further insight, I decided to reach out to a lawyer who specialized in HOA-related disputes. During our consultation, the attorney confirmed my understanding of the situation, explaining how my documentation could be pivotal in a potential lawsuit. He outlined the legal groundwork for taking action against the HOA, including filing for damages related to emotional distress and property harm, potentially amounting to the $100,000 I had hoped for. Equipped with this legal backing, I began considering various courses of action. Should I pursue mediation first, aiming for a resolution without going to court? Or was litigation the only way to ensure they understood the severity of their missteps? After weighing these options carefully, it became apparent that mediation might be a prudent first step. It would allow me to express my grievances while seeking a satisfactory outcome without escalating matters further. As I prepared for this next phase, a mix of anticipation and trepidation filled me. The stakes were high, but armed with knowledge and evidence, I felt ready to assert my rights as a homeowner and restore the boundaries that had been so carelessly crossed. As I delved deeper into the legal aspects of my situation, the next pivotal step was assessing the damages incurred from the HOA's trespassing. This process required careful consideration and calculation of both tangible and intangible losses. I began by itemizing physical damages: scratched fences, trampled flower beds, and disrupted landscaping. Each element represented not just a monetary value but also the emotional investment I had in my home. To support my claim, I gathered estimates from local landscapers to quantify the cost of restoring my property to its former glory. The figures quickly added up, but I knew that financial restitution would only scratch the surface of what I felt had been taken from me. The emotional distress caused by the invasion weighed heavily on my mind. This was more than just about property. It was about feeling safe and respected in my own space. Consulting with my attorney further illuminated the potential for compensation. He explained that damages in such cases often encompass emotional distress, loss of enjoyment, and even punitive damages if the HOA's actions were deemed particularly egregious. Armed with this understanding, I began to assess what a lawsuit might entail. My goal of seeking $100,000 didn't feel far-fetched when considering not only the physical repairs but also the psychological impact of their invasion. During our discussions, my lawyer highlighted the importance of establishing a clear narrative of how their actions had affected me personally. He encouraged me to document everything meticulously. The sleepless nights spent worrying about future violations, the anxiety associated with being unable to enjoy my yard freely, and the broader implications for community trust. This evidence would be crucial should we decide to move forward with litigation. As I pondered these aspects, a mixture of dread and determination settled within me. The thought of potentially facing off against an organized entity like the HOA was daunting. However, knowing that standing up for myself could lend credibility to future homeowner rights invigorated my resolve. It wasn't merely about individual justice anymore. It was about paving a path for others who might find themselves in similar situations without a voice. Preparing for this legal battle required mental fortitude and a clear strategy. Though challenges lay ahead, every piece of evidence gathered felt like an empowering step toward reclaiming not just my property but also my sense of security within my own home. With my determination solidified and legal groundwork laid, it was time to take a critical step forward. Writing a demand letter to the HOA. This letter would serve as both a formal notification of their trespassing and a request for resolution. Crafting this document required careful thought, as it needed to convey the seriousness of the situation while remaining professional. I started by clearly outlining the events that transpired, including the date of their unauthorized entry and the specific actions taken by the HOA members. Precision was key. I wanted to ensure they understood exactly what they had done wrong. I included references to the documented evidence I had gathered, emphasizing that I had photographs, witness statements, and even estimates for damages that substantiated my claims. Next, I articulated the emotional impact their actions had on me. This wasn't just about property damage. It was about feeling unsafe in my own home and having my rights violated. I expressed how their behavior had disrupted my sense of community and trust, and how I felt compelled to take action to protect my property rights. In the demand section of the letter, I outlined my expectations clearly. I requested a formal apology from the HOA, a commitment to prevent future intrusions, and financial restitution for the damages incurred. Specifically, the estimates I had collected for restoring my yard and compensating for emotional distress. I framed my request for $100,000 not only as a reflection of physical repairs but also as acknowledgement of the psychological toll their actions had inflicted. Before finalizing the letter, I consulted with my attorney once more to ensure that it met legal standards and effectively communicated my intent. He advised me on wording that would convey both firmness and willingness to resolve the matter amicably, should they choose to engage. As I typed up the final draft, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation coursed through me. This letter was not only a declaration of my grievances but also a call to action for the HOA. Once sent, it would open a channel for dialogue, or perhaps escalate matters toward litigation if they failed to respond appropriately. With a deep breath, I hit send, feeling a sense of empowerment wash over me. No matter what happened next, I was standing up for myself and asserting my rights in a way that had been long overdue. The ball was now in their court, and I was ready for whatever came next. After hitting send on the demand letter, I found myself in a state of restless anticipation. It didn't take long for the HOA to respond, and their reaction left me both surprised and intrigued. Instead of the expected defensive stance or outright denial of fault, I received a formal letter from the HOA board within a week. In their response, they expressed regret for what they termed an unfortunate misunderstanding, They acknowledged my concerns and claimed that their actions were intended solely as compliance checks, an assertion that felt dismissive given the extent of my documentation. However, they also recognized that trespassing was not the appropriate means to achieve this goal, which indicated an admission of guilt, albeit subtly. The letter further invited me to a meeting with several board members to discuss the situation and explore potential resolutions. Part of me was skeptical. I wasn't sure whether to view this invitation as a genuine effort to rectify their mistakes or merely a strategy to diffuse tension before legal action ensued. Still, it presented an opportunity for dialogue that I hadn't initially expected. Feeling empowered by my preparation and armed with evidence, I agreed to attend the meeting. My attorney advised me that this could be advantageous if handled correctly. Laying out the facts while remaining calm could strengthen my position. As the date approached, I meticulously prepared not only by reviewing my file, but also by practicing how I would present myself. I wanted to convey both assertiveness and professionalism. When the day arrived, I walked into the HOA's office with mixed feelings, anxiety battling with anticipation. The room was filled with board members who appeared somewhat sheepish yet ready to engage. As we began discussing my concerns, it became clear that their initial reaction had stemmed from fear of potential legal repercussions rather than genuine remorse. During our conversation, they expressed a willingness to take corrective measures. This included offering to cover part of the repair costs and implementing safeguards to prevent future trespasses. Yet despite these overtures, I remained cautious. Accepting too quickly might undermine my position or set a precedent for future interactions. As we wrapped up the meeting, it was clear that while progress was being made, I needed to remain vigilant. Their response indicated a realization of boundaries crossed, but talking about change wasn't enough. I wanted actions that matched their words. As I left the meeting room, a sense of determination surged within me. Whatever happened next would be met with resolve and careful consideration of what was rightfully mine. Following the meeting with the HOA, I felt a renewed sense of purpose as I weighed my next steps. The board had made concessions, but it was clear that I needed to keep my options open, especially if their promises fell short. With potential legal action still looming over our arrangement, it was time to delve back into discussions with my attorney to solidify a strategy that would protect my interests. I scheduled a follow-up consultation, bringing along the HOA's correspondence and a detailed account of the meeting. During our discussion, I relayed their offers and assertions, ensuring my attorney understood the nuances of their tone and stance. He listened attentively and then provided critical guidance on how to navigate what lay ahead. "Your cautious approach is wise," he emphasized. "You can agree to a settlement that covers immediate repairs and safeguards, but always ensure you get everything in writing. This is your leverage should they fail to uphold their end of the agreement." We talked about drafting a more formal settlement agreement that would specify not only the repairs to be made, but also the timeline for completion and any ongoing commitments from the HOA regarding respect for property boundaries. My attorney suggested incorporating clauses that would allow for regular check-ins to monitor compliance, ensuring they didn't backslide after resolving this initial incident. Empowered by this advice, I felt better equipped to engage with the HOA again. Knowing that I had legal recourse if they reneged on any agreements elevated my confidence. We also touched upon further legal options, if necessary, including filing a lawsuit should future conflicts arise, or if they failed to respond adequately to the written agreement. In the following days, I meticulously crafted my communication plan. It was vital to keep emotions at bay and maintain professionalism while plainly asserting my expectations. The letters would articulate the need for accountability without coming across as overly combative. After all, I still hoped for a resolution that could benefit both parties. As I prepared to reach out once more, a new layer of resolve settled within me. This situation had morphed from an invasion of privacy into an opportunity for advocacy, not just for myself, but potentially for other homeowners who might face similar challenges with the HOA in the future. While the path forward wasn't entirely clear, I was ready to take each step with clarity and strength, knowing I had both legal support and an unwavering commitment to safeguarding my rights. As I navigated this challenging situation with the HOA, I became increasingly aware of the broader implications my experience could have on the community. The initial invasion of my property had ignited a fire within me, but it also sparked conversations among neighbors about their rights and the authority of the HOA. Many residents had felt uneasy about the association's overreach but were hesitant to speak out due to fear of retaliation or ostracism. I decided to leverage this momentum and create an opportunity for collective action. Organizing a neighborhood meeting seemed like the perfect way to not only share my experience but also encourage others to voice their concerns. I drafted an invitation outlining the purpose of the gathering: to discuss homeowner rights, share experiences related to the HOA, and strategize on how we could collectively hold the association accountable for its actions. When the day of the meeting arrived, I was both nervous and excited. As neighbors began to arrive, I was heartened by their enthusiasm and willingness to engage in open dialogue. Sharing my story sparked a wave of testimonies from others who had faced similar issues, ranging from minor disputes over yard aesthetics to more significant concerns about privacy violations. It became clear that many felt intimidated by the HOA's authority and were uncertain how to advocate for themselves. The atmosphere shifted from apprehension to empowerment as we brainstormed ideas on how best to approach the HOA collectively. Whether through a unified letter expressing our concerns or organizing a petition demanding clearer guidelines around property inspections, in this setting, community support flourished. We realized it was essential not only to stand up for individual rights but also for collective homeowner rights. As we exchanged contact information and made plans for future meetings, I felt a sense of camaraderie develop among us, a shared resolve that would become our strength. In the days that followed, discussions continued online and in person. Word spread beyond our immediate circle. Other homeowners began reaching out with their own stories and concerns, eager to join our cause. This growing movement underscored a vital truth: the HOA's power should not stifle our voices or dictate our experiences as homeowners. With each passing day, my confidence grew. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was part of something larger than any single dispute. Together, we could foster change within our community, ensuring that everyone felt secure in their homes while holding accountability at all levels. As the movement among residents gained momentum, I found myself at a crossroads. Should we push for a formal resolution with the HOA or escalate matters further? The discussions within our community revealed diverse opinions. Some felt that accepting the HOA's conciliatory offers could restore peace, while others believed that without firm consequences, the association would continue its overreach. Tensions escalated as we deliberated on our next steps. At times, it felt as though the very fabric of our community was being tested. The thought of initiating legal action against the HOA loomed heavy in the air, but so did the fear of fracturing the neighborly bonds we had spent years building. It was clear that any decision made now would set a precedent, not just for my situation but for every homeowner within our jurisdiction. To navigate this delicate situation, I reached out to my attorney once more for clarity. He outlined possible paths forward. On one hand, we could pursue a settlement that included clear terms for reparations and safeguards to prevent future violations, a path likely to keep harmony among neighbors intact. On the other hand, escalating to a lawsuit could send a strong message against HOA overreach but might alienate some community members who preferred a more measured approach. As I gathered feedback from my neighbors, it became clear that many shared my frustration but feared potential fallout. Despite this apprehension, a collective resolve began to emerge as we discussed what it meant to be empowered homeowners. Some residents voiced their desire to make our association adhere strictly to its own policies, suggesting we push back against any future violations together. In light of these conversations, I began contemplating a hybrid approach, proposing to the HOA that if they could demonstrate their commitment to respecting homeowner boundaries through measurable actions, I would agree to halt any further legal pursuits for now. This would involve regular updates on compliance with our new settlement agreement and ensuring that all homeowners had access to important information regarding their rights and responsibilities. Preparing this proposal required careful wording, ensuring it conveyed both determination and openness to collaboration. I wanted to emphasize that while I valued resolution and community harmony, I would advocate fiercely for our rights if necessary. Ultimately, I recognized that whatever path we chose, settlement or escalation, it needed to resonate with our shared values as homeowners. The decisions made in the coming days would not only affect my situation but could also empower others in the neighborhood, creating lasting change in how the HOA operated. As I finalized my proposal and prepared to present it to both my neighbors and the HOA, I felt both anxious and hopeful about what lay ahead. Reflecting on this entire experience, I realized that I had learned invaluable lessons that extended far beyond the immediate conflict with the HOA. First and foremost, I understood the importance of knowing my rights as a homeowner. Familiarizing myself with property laws and regulations not only prepared me for this confrontation but also empowered me to advocate for myself effectively. It reinforced the idea that ignorance can often lead to vulnerability in such situations. I also recognized the power of community support. What began as a personal struggle evolved into a collective movement, showing me that unity could amplify our voices and bring about meaningful change. Witnessing my neighbors rally behind the cause reminded me that we are often more powerful together than we are alone. This inspired a sense of camaraderie that flourished beyond our shared frustrations. It became about fostering a culture where everyone felt secure standing up for their rights. Effective communication emerged as another critical lesson. Negotiating with the HOA required a careful balance of assertiveness and professionalism. I learned how to articulate my concerns in a way that conveyed urgency while remaining open to dialogue. Crafting letters and proposals taught me to be precise with language and clear in my expectations, skills that would benefit me in many aspects of life moving forward. Additionally, I came to appreciate the importance of patience and strategy. The temptation to jump into legal action quickly was strong, but I realized that a thoughtful approach often leads to better outcomes. By weighing both immediate resolutions and potential long-term consequences, I could navigate the situation more effectively. As discussions continued within our neighborhood, it became clear that many had similar fears or frustrations regarding the HOA's authority. This recognition sparked a collective determination not just to address current grievances but also to create mechanisms for ongoing accountability, whether through regular meetings or clearer guidelines on what homeowners could expect from their association. Ultimately, the journey through this ordeal has shaped my understanding of advocacy, rights, and community dynamics profoundly. I now feel equipped not only to defend my own boundaries but also to assist others who may find themselves in similar predicaments down the line. This experience serves as a reminder. While challenges can be daunting, they often open doors to resilience, solidarity, and empowerment within our communities. Moving forward, I am committed to ensuring that our voices remain heard and respected, transforming previous frustrations into lasting change for all homeowners in our neighborhood. As I concluded this journey with the HOA and reflected upon the struggles, lessons, and victories that unfolded, I felt it was essential not just to celebrate our accomplishments but also to provoke action among fellow homeowners. This experience underscored a critical reality. While living in a community governed by an HOA can have its benefits, it also comes with shared responsibility and sometimes considerable challenges. I urge all homeowners, whether you're encountering issues like mine or simply enjoying the status quo, to take proactive steps in understanding your rights. Educating yourself about property laws, the specific regulations governing your HOA, and knowing how to document incidents will empower you to advocate for yourself effectively. Knowledge is indeed power, and navigating these situations starts with a solid foundation of understanding. Moreover, community support cannot be overstated. Engaging in open dialogues with your neighbors fosters a culture where everyone feels secure voicing concerns. By standing together, we amplify our voices and create a stronger front moving forward. As our neighborhood discussions evolved into collective action, many residents expressed feeling heard and empowered in ways they had never before experienced. I encourage everyone to organize meetings or forums within your community. These gatherings can provide a vital platform for sharing experiences, generating ideas, and creating strategies that address unique challenges posed by HOAs or local governance. Furthermore, do not hesitate to reach out for legal guidance if needed. Consulting an attorney does not mean you are gearing up for war. Rather, it signifies your commitment to protecting your home and community, a proactive step towards asserting your rights. Finally, relentless advocacy within your community should not only seek immediate redress but also aim to cultivate long-term accountability from HOAs. Whether through regular review of their guidelines or establishing mechanisms for ongoing evaluation of their practices, it's essential that associations remain responsive to the needs of the very residents they serve. By remaining vigilant and engaged, we create a ripple effect that extends beyond our individual situations. Together, we can ensure that homeowners enjoy their properties without fear of unwarranted intrusion and uphold the standards of good governance within our communities. Let's transform frustrations into enduring change and foster an environment where every homeowner's voice matters. Because when we stand united, we cultivate a thriving community for all.